Thank you. Good morning, and welcome to our Sunday service. I'm Roger Jones. I'm happy to serve as one of the ministers here at UUSS. Whether you're here in person or whether you're participating on Zoom, we're glad you're with us. We're glad to be with you. The mission of our congregation says we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. Toward this end, we honor the Nishanan, Southern Maidu, and Miwok peoples for their enduring commitment to the land where UUSS exists. They have never ceded, left, nor ceased to care for this land. For those on Zoom today, if you'd like to follow what's happening with an order of service, you can click the link in the chat. And if you're in the room, the order of service is on the table in the back. Also on the back table and on our website is the Blue Sheet weekly calendar. The Blue Sheet is an important guide to finding things of interest to you here at UUSS. And our weekly message comes out by email every Friday. It has announcements and a reflection from one of the ministers. We're happy to send you this email if you can fill out a newcomer's form. And you can do that at the greeters table after the service or through the website, through a link in the chat. Whether you're new or not, it's important to say, in a congregation like this one, declaring your certainty about religious beliefs is not as important as the spiritual practice of kindness. And one of the simplest ways to practice kindness is by taking some time to greet another person. Simple words of recognition and greeting can reduce the spaces between us. As a spiritual practice, doing this for just one other person a day would make a difference. So I hope you will take the opportunity to do this right after the service today, or even during the service if you have the chance. If you're here in person, after the service there will be coffee, tea, refreshments. You can check out the connections table, visit the bookstore, and meet members of our nominating committee. If you're from the nominating committee, raise your hands. People, yes, I see you. And if you're attending on Zoom, I hope you will stay after the service to get acquainted with others in a breakout room. And today we are expanding our Zoom conversation to 22 minutes. I hope the AV staff knows that. And let us know if that enables everyone to introduce themselves. Today is a circle service when we come together as a community of all ages and stages of life. And right down here is a space for little ones to hang out at any time, as well as for the adults in their lives. And if you need to hang out in the back or in the welcome hall, that's okay. And there may be more sounds this morning in this space than usual, including the sacred sounds from the smaller bodies among us. And somebody might even yawn out loud. It happens sometimes. More likely, however, is the occasional sound of a cell phone ringing or a smartwatch going off, because not everybody remembers to turn it off, even when we mention it, as I just did. In community, we strive to give one another grace. Some of you have been anticipating the next announcement with excitement. I know I have. We're going to install solar panels at UUSS. This will save us nearly $700 a month in utility costs. We will join the momentum toward renewable energy. We are doing our part. So $40,000 of the cost, or half the cost for the panels, will be paid for with money left to us by the late Richard Hayden, and the other $40,000 will be paid for by many of us. And as of today, we are just over halfway there with donations. Thank you to those people who have made a gift, and thank you to everyone else for considering a gift. on this final day of our appeal for support. You may stop by the solar table, look for the sunflowers and the solar sisters staffing the table out in the welcome hall. You can ask your questions, you can make a donation, you could also mail a check to UUSS, you could call the office tomorrow, or you can donate on the website. If you want to buy a whole solar panel, sponsor a panel, that would be $330. I wrote my check. I can't find it, but I will. Last week, from this pulpit, Bobby Keel told us that no, you cannot get your name engraved on the solar panel that you pay for. Boo. She did not say anything about a holographic image on a solar panel. So, now, you can take it down. I know, seriously, I know that this project is not about me, it's not about individuals. It's about what we can do together as a community. We want you to know that every gift will help us get there. We have received a range of donation amounts, lower than $330 and higher as well. And even though we won't be making any spoken announcements about it after today, all additional donations will be received with gratitude. And let's hope that we can fully fund this project and get our solar panels installed before the hot Sacramento weather starts to give its rays of solar energy to us for free in the coming months. Next, I want to introduce you to our guest musicians, whom we'll hear from in a few minutes. Savo and Boynar, you want to wave? Hi. So, Boynar on the right will be playing the djembe and the kora, which is the string instrument. He's from Senegal, and he's a wonderful musician in the local community. Another wonderful musician in the local community is Savo. And Savo is the music engineer at the Creation District, which is a drop-in center for homeless people from ages of 18 to 24, people who are unhoused or who are at risk of being unhoused, and he supports all the music programs in that art-based drop-in center, including a recording studio. And he also happens to be Savo also happens to be the son of our members, Renee and Ted Scott Feminella. Would you raise your hands? So the title of the service today is Housed and Unhoused, Reflections on the Spaces Between Us. We are all affected by homelessness, some by the current or past experience of not having a reliable or safe place to live, and others by having to move from place to place in order to have a safe place to stay. And many of us witness how many of our neighbors live on the margins of society. Whether we are youth, children, or adults, we have a variety of reactions, feelings, and questions about this crisis, especially if someone we know is going through it or if we have. With Rosemary Dodd, Andy Kramer, Celia Buckley, and Crystal Fountain, today we hold up a mirror of our larger society. Amid the discomfort which may arise, we hope that this service can be helpful to you in bearing witness with empathy. This may be especially helpful if you find yourself in conversations with people whose attitudes or perspectives are different from yours, and you would like some resources. We thank Terry Taylor for this centerpiece altar, which promotes the work of our own Mercy Peddlers team. While UUSS tries to help in many ways, and you can pick up a form on the back table afterwards about the many connections we have to try to help, while we try in many ways to help, we don't have any easy answers. Bearing witness is never easy, but it is important. Thank you for being here as we do this.
Our chalice lighter this morning is Jerry Hausman, a member of the Mercy Peddlers. Our chalice lighting reading is Witnesses of the World by Tanya Marquez. An abstract pattern of paint with bright orange, dark blue, and white. It is now, when we are called as witnesses of the world, to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now, when we are called to act on our values, not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Let us gather, let us give each other courage, let us worship.
My name is Crystal Fountain, and I'm the coordinator of religious education here at UUSS. And today I want to share a story with you, a story for all ages, a true story of the author's time when they did not have a home, and they found solace in their community. Dear librarian, may I tell you a story? It's about me, and it's about you, and it's about my library home. It happened when I was 5 years old. Me and my mom and my dad and my 5 big sisters and 1 baby brother all had to leave Colorado and go to Iowa, where Grandma was. My dad needed a new job, and we needed a new place to live. In Iowa, I missed my little blue home with the big maple tree. I missed my red roller skates packed away in the big truck. I missed my sunny backyard with lots of space to run and play. I missed my best friend, little Becca. But most of all, I missed having a home. In Iowa, I didn't have a home to live in, just houses. 5 big sisters and 1 baby brother and a mom and a dad are a lot of people, so we lived in a lot of different places. Some days we lived at Aunt Linda's house, excuse me. Aunt Linda had a pretty pink bathtub for fancy bubble baths. But Aunt Linda's house was full of nice things you shouldn't touch because they're not yours. Some days we lived at Cousin Alice's house. Cousin Alice had her own family to take care of, but she let us sleep in her tiny, cozy basement. In Cousin Alice's basement, there was a big couch and bouncy mattresses. Every night was a giant sister's sleepover. Move over. You're hogging the blanket. That's my spot. But even a snuggly sleepover was a little too crowded for all of us. Some days we stayed at Grandma's house. Grandma lived right by a park with swings and space to run and spin, but there weren't any friends at Grandma's park. Mom said it was very generous of everyone to let us live at their houses, but Grandma's house was too small, Aunt Linda's house was too nice, and Aunt Alice's house already had a family. Nowhere was home. Nowhere had a special spot just for me. Then one day, Mom took me and my 5 big sisters and 1 baby brother to a new place. Not a house, but a big building with stone columns and tall, tall steps. The library. There was a sunny window that took up a whole wall. There were rows and rows of books, and a basket of toys and a puppet theater. There was so much to do and so much space to do it in. At the window, I could watch people on the street, or I could skip down the rows of books with my brother. Or I could make up stories with my sisters. There was enough space at the library for all of us. Then I found a special spot, just for me. Up the tall stairs, across from the sunny window, was a round desk. It was my favorite spot because behind that desk was my new friend. She had kind eyes, a gentle face, and a laugh like bubbles. That friend was the librarian, and that librarian was you. You looked me right in the eyes and listened to me like I was a grown-up. You helped me find a book about princesses, and then you sat down on the floor to read it to me. After that, Mom and Dad brought me to the library all the time. Every day you gave me a hug. Every day you made me feel safe and happy. Those days, the library was like a home, my own special home, even though it wasn't a house. Later that year, my mom and dad and 5 big sisters and 1 baby brother all went to live in a big brown home with a tall willow tree. I could zoom around in my red roller skates again. But I still visited my library home to be in my favorite spot and read books and to be home with you, my library friend. Now, my dear librarian, I'm a grown-up, but I still go to the library every day because I'm a librarian, just like you. You gave me a library home, so I wanted to make one too, for kids with little blue homes and big brown homes and no homes at all. So I did.
Thank you, Crystal. I invite you to take a deep inhale breath with me and pause for a moment before letting out a deep exhale. Now is the time for us to settle in and center ourselves in our breathing and in kindness. This is a community of care and compassion, of gratitude and celebration, and we affirm this in our joys and sorrows time every week. Here are a few. Our member Maxine Cornwell is out of the hospital and is continuing in a rehabilitation center, rehabilitating from a broken hip. Today we send prayers for strength and healing to Maxine. Our member Pete Martineau is home after 8 days in the hospital for a surgical procedure on a heart valve. He says it was successful and he can breathe again. We send prayers to Pete for a continued regaining of his energy and strength. Our members Mary and Morgan McLaughlin are holding Mary's sister, Nancy Butterworth, in their hearts. Nancy had a stroke 9 days ago, and she's been in the ICU in Columbia, South Carolina. She's paralyzed on one side, and she can't swallow easily, but she has been talking and making jokes. We send prayers for healing to Nancy and strength to her and her family. Others among us today are sending wishes for strength and well-being to loved ones facing challenges of body, mind, or spirit. Let us embrace these concerns and these hopes with compassion. We call to mind also those among us or those near us who may not have reliable shelter or a safe place to rest and stay dry and warm. As we bear witness to one another's humanity, let us bring more love into the world. All around the world, beyond these walls, are families who have been uprooted from their home places by conflict and oppression. They yearn and plead for safety and peace. Let us add our longing and our prayers for a world in which all are safe and all are free to live and flourish into their full humanity. Let us keep our hearts open to more love. We recognize joys in our community, including yesterday's wedding between our member Kurt Schmidt and Julia Rampone. Their wedding was in Southern California. And there are many other occasions of joy and celebration in our community. Many of us find joy and peace and hope from the green buds emerging, the bright growing grass, and the wind that causes the branches to sway in the warm sunshine. Let us find more joy and hope as we notice the gifts of ordinary life, starting with the blessing of this day. May we strive to show kindness in good days as well as days of difficulty. May the spirit of love keep us connected. Please join me in a time of centering. Relax your eyes, whether open or closed, and notice where you're sitting or resting, the contact your body is making with the floor or furniture which sustains you in this moment. And let us notice our breathing again by taking in a deep inhale breath together and pausing briefly and then exhaling deeply. And as we continue to notice our breathing, let us receive these words of prayer and hope. O Spirit of life, Spirit of love, sustain us on this day and in the days to come. Enliven our awareness of the ordinary miracle of being alive. Help us to keep an open heart for our own concerns and for the lives of those around us. Help us to remain open to find more love, more peace, and more hope. Help us to bring these blessings of love, peace, and hope to those with whom we share this world. Through our words, through our deeds, may we find more joy. So may it be, blessed be, and amen. Let's pause for a few moments in silence together. Blessed be.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Generosity is a spiritual practice, and our congregation has a practice of giving away half of every Sunday's offering. Your gifts, given in the spirit of generosity, support the life and work of this community, the work of our community, which includes reaching out to others in need. Every Sunday morning, we give half of that offering to a chosen organization working to heal the world. And for the month of February, Our community partner is Planned Parenthood Marmonte. This organization delivers vital reproductive and sexual health care, sex education, and information to over 220,000 people around Northern California and Nevada, including here in Sacramento. In addition to family planning services, they provide gender-affirming care for transgendered people, and in the last year have provided abortion care to people traveling from more than 36 states, where the right to abortion is no longer guaranteed. Given the ongoing assault on access to sexual and reproductive health care, sex education, and LGBTQ rights, our generosity matters much more. It matters as much now as it did 60 years ago. Thank you for your generosity to UUSS and to our community partner. This morning's offering will now be given and received. Generosity and joy. Please join me, as the ushers come forward, please join me in our unison response. May generosity bless our world, and may gratitude nourish our spirits.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank all our musicians today, especially Courtney O'Neill, who is playing piano for us while Irina is out of town. Thank you, Courtney. You're a star. I've got a couple slides, if you want to pull them up. So here at the UU Society of Sacramento, we believe that paying attention to an issue of injustice is an act of love. No, it didn't pull up the map. That's okay. And healing begins when we examine what is painful, wonder how the pain occurred, and allow the pain to teach us. By witnessing and naming something together in community, we can begin to build pathways to healing. And so I want to talk a little bit about the scale, background, and context of homelessness in the United States and here in Sacramento as well. This Sunday service invites each of us to witness the reality of the homelessness crisis. And since congregations are a microcosm of the larger world, this room holds a fraction of the larger community of people in the region. So in this room are multitudes of stories, backgrounds, and experiences with homelessness and with being housing insecure. We each bring stories of our own to this community every week, and this week I want to honor all of the stories. So, what are some of the root causes of homelessness? According to research, most of the root causes of homelessness are economic, meaning having to do with money. So often they can be a lost job, a sudden eviction, lacking protection for renters, a mental or physical health crisis that causes economic consequences, an unsafe home environment, a sudden increase in rent, or poverty. Poverty is a reality in our country. And here's a couple terms that I came across when I was researching for this service. People experiencing homelessness is a phrase that's a human-centered alternative to the term homeless person or the homeless. People experiencing homelessness centers the person and their experience with housing. Homeless refers to the circumstance of not having a permanent indoor place to sleep. Unhoused refers to not having a permanent indoor place to sleep. And unsheltered refers to living in an area not meant for human habitation, such as a sidewalk, a park, a car. And so people experiencing homelessness may sleep in transitional or temporary housing, including homeless shelters. They may sleep in a friend's couch or spare room. This is often referred to as doubling up and is an invisible reality of homelessness in our country. People may sleep in motels. People may sleep in tents. People may sleep in vehicles, or in a park, or on a sidewalk. And California is home to the largest group of people experiencing homelessness in the United States. So on any given day, more than 171,000 people in California experience homelessness. And this number grows when you look at the amount of people experiencing homelessness over a full year. And so California is home to 12% of the national US population, 30% of the nation's homeless population, and half of the nation's unsheltered population, people who don't have any kind of indoor place to sleep. In Sacramento, this issue is growing pretty rapidly. In our 2023 point-in-time count, on one day, 9,300 people were experiencing homelessness in Sacramento County, which you can see is a big jump from the last point-in-time count in 2019. And of those 9,300 people, 72% of those people are living unsheltered, which means that they're living in a tent or a vehicle, in a park, on a sidewalk. And this one nightly count translates to an estimate of 16,000 to 20,000 people that experience homelessness at some point in the year in Sacramento County. That places us about 19th nationally for counties in homelessness. It's not great. Can take the slides down. A 2022 Sacramento State survey found that 29% of respondents knew someone who's experienced homelessness. About a third of people know someone who's experienced homelessness personally. And 7% of people who responded to that same study said that they themselves have experienced homelessness or housing insecurity. This issue is close to our community, close to our lives. And in my research, I wanted to bring just a couple key truths that I felt as particularly important for us to witness. Members of the LGBTQ community, accounted for in current data collection, have particularly high rates of unsheltered homelessness. So LGBT people are more likely to live, to not be able to access homeless shelters or transitional housing than other homeless people. Second, ongoing impacts of structural racism place communities of color at increased risk for homelessness. Black and Indigenous communities are disproportionately impacted and represented in homeless populations. Third, studies show time and time again that the experience of being homelessness is highly stressful, and what homeless people do day to day is spending their time trying to survive and find shelter and find barriers along the way. Between 40 to 50% of people experiencing homelessness are employed. According to data, people experiencing homelessness are far more likely to be victims of violent crimes than to commit violent crime, and rates of hate crime against the homeless community are increasing. Thank you for listening and for bearing witness and for starting on our journey towards shared understanding. And now I'd like to invite Andy up to share a little bit more.
Throughout my life, I've often had a sense of insecurity about the future. Will I have enough money? Will I be healthy? None of this was particularly rational. Perhaps too much anxiety and time thinking about what can go wrong in life. Then almost 10 years ago, during a meditation session, I felt a deep and abiding sense of well-being. During the meditation, it spread forward in time in my life and back in time throughout my life. It was as though I was reinterpreting my life through new eyes. That sense of well-being then spread outward to other people in my life. It was very powerful for me, and my description doesn't do it justice. I'm very grateful that the feeling of personal well-being has stayed with me. But what am I to make of a world in which suffering and injustice is common? In Sacramento, I think it's fair to say that homelessness is at crisis levels. Nearly every day, if I choose to look, I can personally see suffering in the faces of those most impacted. In Sacramento County, there are nearly 10,000 unhoused people and something like 2,000 shelter spaces, leaving the vast majority of the unhoused to fend for themselves. This past December, after dark on the solstice, I joined a group of people in front of City Hall to read aloud 105 names of those who were unhoused and who died on the streets last year. It was very somber. Those were just the names that the county coroner documented. The total really is higher, perhaps twice as high. The average age was about 50. Living outside is hard. So as a UU with a deep and abiding feeling of personal well-being, what am I to do? I could ignore it. After all, there are a lot of problems in the world, and I can't be expected to respond to all of them. But this one seems very personal. It's front and center most days as I go about life here. To stay warm and happy in my sense of well-being while ignoring the suffering happening literally outside my door feels, to me, like the worst form of privilege. When I encounter these big questions, I ponder my response in the context of being a UU. 20 years ago, I felt an immediate connection to our first principle when I first encountered it. It is expressed a little differently in the pending revisions to Article 2 of our bylaws. It states, "We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness." I love that. What a powerful statement. If I make that declaration as a UU, then I feel called to respond in some way to the crisis of homelessness that I see every day. I wonder what it says about our community. Just within our county, we let thousands upon thousands of people fall through the bottom of the safety net. People experiencing homelessness are not flourishing. There's a lot of talk about the problem, and money certainly gets spent by the city and the county, but I don't see that much has changed for the better in the last few years. Through this congregation, I engaged with Sacramento area congregations together, SAC-ACT. We are striving to hold our city and county governments accountable for implementing their commitments to the unhoused citizens in their jurisdictions. We also work with other interested parties to meet the basic human needs of those experiencing homelessness. I've also become more open to engaging with people who are homeless. One day before Christmas, I had a bag of new clothing items that was given to me so that I could pass it along to a person living outside. While out walking near my home on a cold evening, I came upon a woman struggling to set up her tent. I offered her the bag of clothing. She responded excitedly, "Are there shoes in the bag?" There were not. I looked down. On this cold night, I had not noticed that she was barefoot. She accepted the bag and asked if I knew where she could get some shoes. Lesson number 1, listen to people. They'll tell you what they need. Later that night, I dug through my closet for a couple pairs of shoes and socks and took them to her. Recently, while I was working in the garage, a man pushing a shopping cart of belongings came by. First, he asked for a pair of sweatpants, and as I went into the house to find an old pair, perhaps sensing an opening, he added something to eat to his request. When I came back out with the clothes and food, he had moved down the alley a short distance. He was stooped over, sorting some things. I offered him what I had brought, and he accepted it silently. And then, as if in exchange, he offered me a small metal tray holding a few polished stones and some trinkets. One offering in exchange for another. This older man had something to say without words about his inherent dignity and worthiness. I'll be honest with you, I don't have the answers, and I have little skill as a community organizer, but I need to respond. If I didn't, what would it say about me? Do I look at the suffering of others and then just whisper a gratitude for my sense of well-being? What would it cost my heart if I looked away every day?
Thank you, Courtney. Okay, in a moment, we're going to take a walk and a stretch break, and we're going to walk over to these 4 little tables along the sides of the room. There you will find paper cutouts in the shape of hands. When I say begin, please head over to a table and grab a hand and a pen if you need one, and then come on back to your seat. If you prefer not to move from your seat, please wave, and one of our ushers will find you and bring you a hand and a writing implement. For those of you who are on Zoom, please take this time to find a piece of paper near you and something to write with. Let's begin. All right, how are we doing? Oh, a wave. Very good. All right, hi, hello. Hello, hello. Great. Okay, now that we're settling back down and back into our seats, I'm going to offer you a guided practice of setting an intention to take with you. In a world with so much suffering, where many people do live without shelter, we each must respond with witness and with open-heartedness and also with action. Our Unitarian Universalist values call us to declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. And if you wish to, close your eyes for a moment and go on a journey with me. Picture yourself in a world where this is true, where everyone is flourishing with inherent dignity and worthiness. What does this world look like in your mind's eye? What does it sound like? What expressions are on the faces around you? Take a few steps around your imagined world, your flourishing world. How does it feel in your own body right now to be in that world? And if you want to, settle into that feeling, into being in a world of mutual flourishing and support. It can feel hard to believe, but another world is possible. And only if we make it. Legendary community organizer and activist Grace Lee Boggs writes that another world is necessary, another world is possible, another world is happening. And so come back into this space and think about today. Just today, just in this one moment, what is the small, sweet step you are ready to take to build this world? As you reflect on the stories shared today and your own stories about homelessness, what do you want to take with you from this place? On the piece of paper, your hand, write down that small step, that commitment for today that you'll take with you when you leave. Do I have any suggestions? You can also write down an intention for researching, for starting to look. We have a flyer at the back of the room that lists the ways that UUSS is involved with efforts to engage our wider community, and I encourage you to take one of those with you when you go. But maybe your intention is starting to look. Maybe your intention is an openness. Maybe your intention is curiosity. In a moment, after we finish writing, we'll do a blessing of the hands which will go out from here to do this work. And so when you leave, I invite you to keep this hand as a reminder of that energy. You could put it on your fridge, on an altar in your home if you're like me, or you could use it as a bookmark. And you can know that wherever you are in the world, your community has lots of hands out there doing this work with you. All right. Let's bless our hands as they go out into the world. If you're on Zoom, please hold your commitment in your hands and receive our blessing. And here in the room, let's hold up our paper hands with our intentions on them. Oh, cool. I will read a phrase of the blessing, and then we will respond with the words, "May we reach out in honesty and love." And we'll have those up on the screen for you. We are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe and each other. May we reach out in honesty and love. We seek to be compassionate, but our vision may be distracted. We might look without seeing because it is hard work to hold up a mirror to our world. May we notice carefully. May we reach out in honesty and love. When we see people suffering, may we not blame the one who suffers. May we be brave enough to notice suffering and compassionate enough to listen to the voices of those who suffer. May we reach out in honesty and love. When we see prejudice and cruelty in the world, may we resolve to interrupt and educate as we are able, and to work toward justice. May we reach out in honesty and love. When we are asked to listen to those in pain, may we provide a kind ear and supportive actions. With strong, loving hearts, helping hands, and curious minds, may we bring our whole selves to this work in small moments and in big ones. May we reach out in honesty and love. Amen. and blessed be.
With our intentions set for knowledge, for welcome, and for spreading love, let us sing that we'll build a land, 121.
As we prepare to extinguish the chalice, please join in speaking our shared intention. We extinguish this flame, but we carry the light, love, and commitment of this gathering into the days to come.
I invite you to reach out to one another. If you're at home, reach out to us as we reach out to you. I invite you to remember that whoever you are connected. We are connected. May you depart in peace and go forth in joy. And for all who see God, may God go with you. And for everyone who embraces life, may life return your affection. And for all who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step, one day at a time. Blessed be.